Welcome to Psychic Insights, where pop culture meets higher consciousness and the tea is always a little bit mystical. I'm Robin Richardson, your psychic girlfriend, and around here we don't just watch the drama unfold. We read the energy behind it, whether it's celebrity scandals, reality TV, chaos, or true crime with a twist. I'm tuning in to bring you the intuitive scoop the headlines miss. So buckle up, because your aura's about to get entertained. Welcome back to my channel. It's Robin Richardson, your psychic girlfriend. Hopefully your favorite on the internet. All right, so there's a moment in relationships when communications stop being communication and starts becoming pressure. It often sounds like, if I don't hear back from you, if you don't respond by tonight, if you ignore this message, I will assume. Suddenly, the conversation isn't really a conversation anymore. It's an attempt to force a response. And today we're talking about this dynamic through the lens of episode 3 of the podcast, Love Trapped. Oh, I'm loving this podcast. I really am. And if you've been following this story, you know it revolves around former Bachelor Clayton Echard and the woman who accused him of fathering her twins, Laura Owens. The case has become one of the most shocking relationship fraud stories in recent years. I know, I'm glued to it. I've been following it for years. But today we're not just going to recap the episode. We're going to talk a little bit deeper about the energetics of coercive communication and why someone uses it and why someone else responds to it and the trap that forms between the two people. And yes, we're pulling cards because, that's how I do here. Because sometimes the energetic patterns reveals things psychology alone can't explain. All right, so here's a quick recap. If you're new to the story, here's the short version. In 2023, Clayton Echard, who many people know from The Bachelor, found himself in an unbelievable situation. A woman named Laura Owens claimed she was pregnant with his twins after a brief encounter of the oral variety. At first, Clayton publicly denied the pregnancy, but the story quickly escalated. There were emails, medical documents, legal filings. And eventually, the case made its way through the court system, where investigators later determined the pregnancy claims were false. And today, Laura Owens faces multiple felony charges related to the alleged fraud. Okay, remember, these are my thoughts, my insights, and my energetic reading. Oh, I love this. The podcast Love Trapped walks through the story step by step. In episode 1, we explored how the situation began. And episode 2 shows how the claims started escalating. But episode 3, this is where it gets interesting. This is where the communication pattern changed. And this is where we start hearing messages that sound like, if I don't hear back, I'm having the babies. That song from Megan Fox just still cracks me up. And that phrase will tell us a lot. So let's talk about what's actually happening when someone communicates this way, because that's the question I have. Coercive communication is when someone tries to control the interaction by creating pressure. It often includes 3 elements: urgency, emotional framing, implied consequences. The message is structured so the other person may feels they have to respond. For example, if I don't hear from you tonight, I assume you don't care. If you don't respond, I'll have to take action. The goal isn't clarity here. The goal is control over the interaction, and this pattern shows up everywhere, in dating, in friendships, in workplaces. But in high-stakes situations like this story, the pressure can escalate quickly. Because once the narrative expands to include other people, family members, legal systems, public audiences, the emotional stakes become enormous. And that's when communication can become a psychological trap. So I asked the cards a question. Why would someone communicate this way? What drives a person to use coercive communication? And these are the cards. And the person we're talking about here is, Laura. So this is the cards that came out. We have mice. You guys won't be surprised by this one. Cross. Fish. Lily. Whip. Ship. Ring. And again, coffin. All right. And the story the cards are telling is fascinating. So in the first cards, the mice and the cross represent anxiety and worry. The cross represents emotional burden. And the combination often shows someone who feels overwhelmed internally. And when people feel like they're losing control of a situation, they sometimes try to regain control externally. That can show up through communication. More messages, long messages, more urgency, more messages, more attempts to force engagement. Lots of different phone numbers. All right. You can tell by my thought bubbles what I'm thinking, right? All right. So then we have the fish and the lily. The fish and the lily. And this combination can point to someone who feels they are owed something. Entitlement much? They want validation, recognition, legitimacy. And it's the energy of someone trying to secure their place in the story. Almost like saying, this relationship mattered. This situation matters. And that belief can drive someone to escalate communication. We've seen it, right? We've seen her. Okay. All right. And then the escalation part. We got the whip. Shows arguments, repeated messaging. Repeat, 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 repeat. This card is often associated with ongoing back and forth communication. In a reading about messaging, it can literally mean repeated attempts to engage someone. Texts, emails, follow-ups, more follow-ups. Attempts to pull the person back into the conversation. Isn't that fascinating? The cards are just fascinating to me. All right, and then we see, this is like also interesting, we see the ship and the ring. The ship and the ring. The ship represents distance, someone pulling away. The ring represents connection or relationship. And together these cards often show someone sensing that the relationship is slipping away and trying to hold on to it. And by relationship, this is something in her mind. This is like, but if we take like relationship as a beginning, a middle, and an end of a connection with someone or something, then okay, well, we can call it a relationship. All right. The final card is coffin. This is endings, closure, finality. So energetically, the spread shows someone trying to prevent something from ending. And communication becomes the tool they use to try to keep the communication alive. And we saw that in her emails, in this podcast. Oh my gosh, like just so much, right? It was overwhelming for me to listen to. I was like, oh my God, I can't imagine having to read all those emails or receive them. All right, so then I wanted to talk about the other side. Why does someone keep responding? Why did Clayton keep responding? But relationships always involve two people. So I asked the cards, what was happening energetically for Clayton on the receiving end? And the cards we got were Sun, Woman, Ring, again the ring, mice, bouquet, heart, moon, and fox. All right. So the sun and the woman, initially, the sun and the woman suggests someone initially approaching the situation with optimism. The belief might be, this can be handled. Let's talk through this. Many emotionally healthy people assume that communication resolves problems, but that assumption can make someone vulnerable to manipulation. I've been there. Okay. I see a lot of Clayton in some of my life experiences. Okay. Not all of them. Some of them. And I'm actually taking hip hop this weekend. Okay. Anyway, I digress. All right. Then we have the communication loop. We have the ring and the mice. And the ring and the mice show an ongoing interaction that slowly becomes stressful. Mice erodes. Okay. This person continues to engage because they believe responding will help resolve the situation, but instead each response pulls them deeper into the loop, which is the ring. Okay. In the ring, the circle, right? All right. And you know what? We see the bouquet and the heart. And we've heard this about Clayton. He tries to stay kind. These cards show diplomacy and sincerity. This is someone trying to keep the situation respectful, trying to be fair, trying to be compassionate. But in coercive dynamics, politeness can sometimes keep someone engaged longer than they should be. Isn't that fascinating? Fascinating. The cards are fascinating to me. All right. And then we finally see the moon and the fox. The moon and the fox. All right. And this is the moment where intuition starts kicking in. Something doesn't feel right. But at this point in the communication, the situation may involve, at this point in the situation, it may already involve documentation, emails, public narratives, and we've heard Clayton say that he took screenshots. He knew something was off. He, if he had trusted his, he was starting to listen to his intuition, right? And the focus shifts from resolving the situation to protecting the truth. So, he did exactly what he needed to do, right? Sometimes we can't avoid what's going to happen. We just have to keep moving towards truth. But that is the energetic trap, right? So in coercive communication, there's one person who tries to control the interaction and the other tries to resolve the interaction. But those intentions create the loop. Remember the ring. One pushes, one responds. And the communication continues. So here are, let's end it with something practical because you might be experiencing some coercive communication. I know I have. And here are 5 signs that you may be dealing with that kind of communication. Messages that create urgency that doesn't actually exist. And silence is framed as wrongdoing. And the person keeps escalating the communication. And you feel anxious after reading their messages. And you respond just to stop the pressure. Healthy communication invites a response. Coercive communication demands one. Isn't that a great difference, right? So episode 3 of Love Trap, the podcast, it shows us something that happens in relationships all the time. The moment communication becomes pressure. And the biggest lesson from stories like this may be simple. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is trust your intuition early. I teach that. I'm still practicing that, right? It's mastery that will never end. You have to keep doing it, right? You have to keep practicing. Because the moment you ignore that voice is often the moment the trap begins. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and supporting my content. If you like this episode, please comment about what you think, if you've been involved in coercive communication, and definitely give a like to Love Trap. Follow them. leave a 5-star review. It's such an amazing podcast. I love it. I'm compelled. I need to watch it. I can't wait for the next episode. And thank you again for supporting my work. And I'll see you in the next one.